The accidental ambassador. Marcus Chen stared at his reflection in the polished surface of the spaceport terminal, adjusting his worn leather jacket one final time. The advertisement had seemed too good to be true, an affordable tourist shuttle to the lunar colonies, perfect for a struggling aerospace engineer looking for a fresh start. He should have known better. The departure gate looked nothing like the others. Instead of the usual utilitarian design of the Earth-Moon shuttles, this one gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence. The terminal staff had processed his ticket without comment, but their uniforms seemed oddly formal for a budget liner. Final boarding call for the Celestial Harmony, announced a melodious voice that seemed to resonate in his bones rather than his ears. Marcus hurried through the gate, his single duffel bag clutched tightly. The boarding tunnel stretched before him, its walls shifting with patterns that reminded him of Aurora Borealis. The ship's entrance opened into a vast atrium that defied the apparent dimensions of the vessel he glimpsed from the terminal. Crystalline pillars stretched upward, their surfaces displaying what appeared to be star charts in flowing, alien script. The few other passengers he could see moved with practiced grace, their attire suggesting diplomatic formal wear rather than tourist casual. "Welcome, Ambassador." A tall figure approached him, their silvery skin catching the light like mother of pearl. "I am First Coordinator Vaxlina. We've been eagerly awaiting Earth's representative." Marcus felt his throat go dry. There must be some mistake. "I'm just a tourist." A tourist. Vaxlina's luminescent eyes widened slightly. On the Galactic Concordat's primary diplomatic vessel. Before Marcus could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The crystalline pillars flashed urgent patterns of red and gold. Vaxlina's expression shifted to one of concern. "We cannot delay departure. The temporal window for reaching the Concordat assembly is closing." She gestured to another alien crew member. "Escort Ambassador Chen to his quarters. We will sort out this unusual situation once we're underway." Marcus found himself guided through corridors that seemed to bend reality itself. His quarters turned out to be a suite larger than his entire apartment back on Earth. Through the transparent viewport, he watched as Earth's familiar blue sphere grew smaller. The ambassador's credentials seemed irregular. He heard one crew member whisper to another outside his door. The humans were meant to send their first representative. Could their methods simply be unusual? Marcus sank into a chair that adjusted to perfectly support his form. He was no diplomat. His expertise lay in practical engineering problems, making systems work together that weren't designed to interface. But now he faced the ultimate systems integration challenge, preventing an interstellar diplomatic incident while somehow finding his way home. A gentle chime announced a message on the room's holographic display. "Your presence is requested in the Grand Assembly Chamber. The representatives from 47 civilizations await Earth's first address to the Concordat." Marcus took a deep breath. He had two choices: reveal a mistake and potentially damage humanity's first major diplomatic contact, or step up and do his best to represent his species until the situation could be resolved properly. Either way, he had a feeling his planned lunar vacation was going to take an unexpected detour. As he stepped out of his quarters, he noticed subtle changes in the ship's architecture. The corridors seemed to be adapting to human ergonomics, the lighting shifting to spectrums more comfortable for Earth eyes. The vessel itself appeared to be learning, analyzing, adapting. Perhaps Marcus thought he could do the same. The Grand Assembly Chamber doors loomed ahead, their surface rippling like liquid metal. Beyond them lay humanity's first true step into a much larger community. And somehow, a struggling aerospace engineer from Earth had become their reluctant ambassador. "Well," Marcus muttered to himself, straightening his jacket, "at least I can't make things worse." The universe, as he would soon learn, had a sense of humor about such statements. First contact protocols. The Grand Assembly Chamber defied human architectural concepts. The ceiling seemed to float like a living nebula, while representatives from dozens of civilizations occupied pods that hovered at various heights and angles. Marcus noticed some species appeared to prefer what humans would consider upside down, while others existed in environments of swirling gas or liquid. His own pod rose smoothly from the chamber floor, positioning him at what appeared to be the focal point of the gathering. First Coordinator Vaxlena's voice echoed through the chamber, presenting Ambassador Marcus Chen of Earth, humanity's first representative to the Galactic Concordat. Marcus gripped the pod's edges, grateful that his engineering background had included public speaking courses. He noticed several alien species leaning forward, or their equivalent, with obvious interest. One delegation, appearing as crystalline structures that pulsed with internal light, seemed particularly focused on him. Distinguished representatives, Marcus began, choosing his words carefully. I bring greetings from Earth. He paused, remembering every first contact scenario he'd ever seen in science fiction. We come seeking knowledge, understanding, and peaceful cooperation. A ripple of what he hoped was approval moved through the chamber. The crystalline delegation's pulses quickened. Ambassador Chen, one of them spoke, their words translated by the chamber's systems. We are the Luminary Collective. Our deep space sensors detected unusual quantum variations from your world. Can you explain the purpose of your particle acceleration experiments? Marcus felt a surge of relief. Finally, something he could actually discuss with authority. The Large Hadron Collider and its successors. Yes, we've been exploring fundamental particle physics to better understand the universe's basic forces. Fascinating, the luminary representative pulsed brighter. You pursue such research without quantum consciousness integration. Before Marcus could admit he didn't understand the question, another delegate interrupted. This one appeared as a shifting mass of iridescent tentacles. More pressing matters exist, the tentacle being announced. The humans have achieved primitive fusion technology. Their military applications are strictly limited, Marcus cut in, drawing on his knowledge of current events. Earth's fusion research focuses on clean energy production. We're trying to solve our climate crisis and expand sustainable power generation. A new voice joined the discussion, this one belonging to a being that seemed to exist partly in another dimension, its form shifting in and out of normal space. The human speaks truth. Our temporal observations confirm their species' potential for both great creation and destruction. Like all young races, they stand at a crossroads. Marcus noticed Vaxlena watching him intently. She knew he wasn't the intended ambassador, but something in her expression suggested she was evaluating more than just his diplomatic skills. The chamber's atmosphere changed as a new delegation moved forward. These beings appeared almost human, save for their metallic skin and eyes that displayed scrolling data. We have analyzed Earth's global information networks. Their species demonstrates remarkable adaptability and problem-solving capabilities, yet they remain divided by artificial constructs of nation-states and ideologies. Unity isn't the same as uniformity, Marcus responded, surprising himself with his conviction. Earth's diversity, our different perspectives, cultures, and approaches, drives our innovation. We learn from our differences as much as our similarities. The chamber fell silent. Marcus wondered if he'd overstepped, but then noticed something remarkable. The various diplomatic pods had subtly shifted, moving closer together while maintaining their unique orientations and environmental conditions. A soft chime echoed through the chamber. The first session must conclude, Vaxlena announced. The temporal harmonics require adjustment. As the pods began descending, Marcus caught fragments of conversation from various delegations. Unexpectedly insightful for a developing world, that adaptation rate exceeds predictions. Quantum irregularities in his temporal signature. Back in the corridor, Vaxlena approached him. An interesting first session, Ambassador. Though I suspect we need to discuss certain irregularities in your appointment. Before she could continue, the ship's lighting shifted to a deep crimson. A voice that seemed to bypass verbal communication entirely announced. Temporal distortion detected. All delegates report to secure zones. This is not a drill. Marcus felt a strange sensation, as if reality itself was beginning to unravel around the edges of his vision. Vaxlena's expression shifted to one of genuine concern. "It seems our discussion will have to wait, Ambassador. Right now, we need your unique perspective on a rather urgent problem." As they hurried through corridors that seemed to bend in impossible ways, Marcus realized that his accidental diplomacy was about to be tested by something far more challenging than cultural misunderstandings. The universe had just thrown him another curveball, and this time, the stakes seemed literally universal in scope. The hidden threat. The secure zone turned out to be a massive spherical chamber at the ship's core. Holographic displays showed the fabric of space-time twisting around the celestial harmony like a turbulent ocean. Marcus recognized enough of the physics involved to know they were in serious trouble. "The temporal stabilizers are failing," a luminary engineer announced, their crystalline form flickering with agitation. "The quantum harmonics are out of phase." Vaxlena turned to Marcus. "Ambassador, given your species' experiments with particle physics, perhaps you can offer insight." Marcus studied the displays, his engineering mind clicking into gear. The mathematics might be beyond human understanding, but system failures followed universal patterns. These readings, they're not random. The destabilization is increasing at regular intervals. The tentacled delegate from earlier emerged from a mist-filled environment pod. Impossible. Temporal distortions are inherently chaotic. Not these. Marcus pointed to a recurring pattern in the data. "Look at the resonance frequency. It's artificial, like someone's deliberately interfering with the ship's systems." A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. The idea of sabotage during a premier diplomatic gathering was unthinkable. The metallic-skinned beings, who Marcus had learned were called the Synfarps, stepped forward. "Our probability matrices confirm the humans' assessment. This is an orchestrated attack." Vaxlena's pearlescent skin dimmed slightly. But who would dare, and why? Marcus noticed something else in the data streams. "These interference patterns, they remind me of something we discovered during quantum tunneling experiments. When you try to force particles through a barrier they shouldn't be able to cross." Of course, the luminary engineer pulsed brightly. "Someone is attempting to breach the ship's quantum shielding. The temporal distortions are a side effect." "But the shield harmonics are encrypted," Vaxlena protested. "Only members of the Concordat have access to." She stopped, realization dawning. The implications were staggering. This was an inside job. The ship shuddered violently. Through the chamber's viewports, Marcus watched as reality itself seemed to crack, revealing something that hurt his eyes to look at. "Multiple breaches detected," the ship's AI announced. "Unknown entities attempting to manifest within diplomatic quarters." The Synfarch representative's eyes scrolled rapid data. "Analysis suggests they originate from null space, the void between dimensions." "Impossible," the tentacled delegate writhed. "The barriers between dimensions have been sealed since the Sundering Wars." Marcus remembered something from the ship's schematics he glimpsed earlier. The quantum shielding. It doesn't just protect the ship from normal space hazards, does it? It's keeping something out. Vaxlena nodded grimly. "The Concordat was formed for many reasons, Ambassador. One was mutual protection against entities that exist beyond conventional space-time, entities that see our reality as territory to be conquered." Another violent shudder rocked the ship. The holographic displays showed multiple sections of the vessel beginning to phase out of normal space. "The shield generators are failing sequentially," the luminary engineer announced. "We have perhaps 20 minutes before total collapse." Marcus studied the engineering displays, his mind racing. The ship's systems were far beyond human technology, but the principles of redundancy and failure prevention would be universal. "These shield generators," he pointed to the schematics, "they're designed to work in perfect harmony, right? That's why the sabotage is so effective. Disrupt one, and the others fall out of sync." "Correct," Vaxlena confirmed. "The system requires perfect quantum alignment." "Then we're approaching this wrong," Marcus said, an idea forming. On Earth, when systems are too perfectly aligned, they become vulnerable to cascade failures. We build in controlled imperfection, just enough variance to prevent total system collapse. The Synthart State-I's word. Probability of success using human randomization principles, 31.2%. Better odds than waiting for total shield failure, Marcus countered. We need to introduce controlled chaos into the system, like a vaccination, a weakened version of what's attacking us to build resistance. The ship lurched again. Through the spreading dimensional cracks, Marcus caught glimpses of shapes that defied Euclidean geometry, reaching toward their reality with impossible appendages. Vaxlina made a decision. Do it. Authorization override, first coordinator. Marcus's fingers flew over the control interfaces, which adapted to his human inputs. He began introducing carefully calculated irregularities into the shield harmonics, fighting against years of engineering instinct that demanded perfect synchronization. Shield collapse accelerating, the luminary engineer warned. 15 minutes remaining. As Marcus worked, he noticed the tentacled delegate transmitting something on a concealed device. Their movements, previously fluid, now seemed stiff with anxiety. The pieces clicked together in his mind. The sabotage, the delegate's earlier focus on Earth's military capabilities, the convenient timing of it all. But he couldn't worry about that now. Reality itself was unraveling around them, and he had to focus on keeping them alive long enough to deal with whatever conspiracy was unfolding aboard the celestial harmony. The void beyond the dimensional cracks seemed to pulse with malevolent intelligence, waiting to rush in the moment their defenses failed. Time was running out, and the fate of not just the ship, but possibly all of normal space, hung in the balance. Human ingenuity. Shield collapse in 10 minutes, the ship's AI announced as Marcus continued implementing his chaotic defense strategy. Reality flickered at the edges of the secure zone, like a television losing signal. The human method appears ineffective, the tentacled delegate announced, a note of satisfaction in their translated voice that only Marcus seemed to notice. No, the luminary engineer pulsed suddenly. Look at the quantum harmonics. The collapse rate is changing. The massive holographic display showed the shield failure patterns shifting. Where before they had been falling like dominoes, now they seemed to dance erratically, refusing to follow the cascading pattern of collapse. It's working, Marcus explained, not taking his eyes off the controls. The sabotage relied on the shields being perfectly synchronized. By introducing controlled variance, we're making the failure pattern fight against itself. The Synthart State-I's whirred with rapid calculations. Probability of success now at 58.9% and rising. A particularly violent dimensional tear ripped through the ship's port section. Through the breach, Marcus caught a glimpse of writhing geometries that made his head hurt. But the tear sealed itself faster than the previous ones, the chaotic shield harmonics actually working to stitch reality back together. Fascinating, Vaxlina observed. Your species' comfort with imperfection has turned our greatest vulnerability into an asset. Marcus noticed the tentacled delegate slowly moving toward one of the auxiliary control panels. Their movements seemed too casual, too calculated. First coordinator, Marcus called out, I need authorization to access the shield's base code. We can make these changes permanent, but only from the primary control matrix. The delegate's tentacles twitched. Impossible. Giving a primitive species access to Concordat core systems would violate the same protocols you violated when you sabotaged the shields. Marcus interrupted, his voice carrying across the chamber. The secure zone fell silent. The delegate's tentacles writhed in what might have been anger or fear. A serious accusation, Ambassador, Vaxlina said carefully. What evidence? The shield harmonics, Marcus explained, still working at the controls. The sabotage pattern matches their species' natural biological rhythm. I noticed it in the way they move. Plus, they've been transmitting data since the crisis began. The synth-arcs moved with impossible speed, surrounding the delegate. Confirmed. Unauthorized quantum transmissions detected. The delegate's form rippled, tentacles spreading wide. You understand nothing. The Concordat's policy of isolation weakens us all. The entities beyond spacetime offer power beyond your comprehension. They offer consumption, the luminary engineer pulsed angrily. As they have to countless civilizations before. Shield collapse in 5 minutes, the AI warned. First coordinator, Marcus pressed the authorization. Vaxlena's expression hardened, granted, full access to primary systems. Marcus's fingers flew over the adapted interface. He wasn't just introducing chaos now, he was rewriting the shield's fundamental operating principles. Years of late-night engineering projects, of making incompatible systems work together through unorthodox solutions, had prepared him for this moment. You'll doom us all, the delegate warned, restrained by the synth-arch's metallic grip. Perfect harmony is the only way. Perfect harmony is stagnation, Marcus countered, remembering countless engineering lectures. Evolution requires variation. Adaptation requires imperfection. The ship shuddered one final time as Marcus implemented the last changes. The dimensional tiers began sealing themselves, reality knitting back together with a sound like thunder. Shield collapse averted, the AI announced. New defense protocols established. The holographic displays showed the shield harmonics settling into a new pattern, not the perfect synchronization of before, but a dynamic, ever-shifting arrangement that somehow maintained greater stability through controlled chaos. Remarkable, Vaxlena breathed. You've not only saved the ship, you've potentially revolutionized our defensive capabilities. The tentacled delegate slumped in the synth-arch's grasp. Others will come. The entities have tasted your reality now. They will not stop. Then we'll be ready, Marcus stated firmly. And we'll face them together, not by making deals with cosmic horrors. As security forces arrived to take the delegate into custody, Marcus noticed something odd on the displays. The quantum harmonics were showing echoes, traces of temporal distortion that shouldn't exist after the shields stabilized. First coordinator, he said quietly, I don't think our problems are over. These readings suggest multiple quantum breaches before the main attack. Someone else is on this ship. Someone who doesn't belong in this timeline. Vaxlena's pearlescent skin dimmed slightly. Are you suggesting? We have more saboteurs, Marcus confirmed, and they're trying to change history itself. The luminary engineer pulsed with alarm. The Concordat assembly, the temporal nexus point. Marcus looked at the beings around him, allies now in a crisis that was only beginning to unfold. I think it's time you told me what this diplomatic mission is really about, and why someone would risk unleashing interdimensional horrors to stop it. Outside the secure zone, the celestial harmony continued its journey through space, its new shield harmonics dancing with controlled chaos. But within its halls, an even greater chaos was brewing, one that would challenge not just space, but time itself. Alliance of minds. In the aftermath of the shield crisis, the celestial harmony's diplomatic quarter had been transformed into a war room. Holographic displays showed timeline analyses that made Marcus's head spin, while representatives from various species argued about temporal protocol violations. The assembly was meant to establish new guidelines for temporal observation, Vaxlena explained, her pearlescent skin shifting with concern. Recent discoveries suggested multiple civilizations were approaching time manipulation technology independently. Like humanity's quantum experiments, Marcus realized. That's why the Luminary was so interested in our particle accelerators. The luminary engineer pulsed in agreement. Your species stumbled upon temporal resonance principles decades ahead of projected development curves. It concerned certain factions. The synth-arcs displayed data streams showing probability cascades. Unknown temporal agents have made 17 distinct attempts to alter Earth's development trajectory in the past solar year alone. Marcus felt a chill. You've been protecting us, without our knowledge. The Concordat's primary directive, Vaxlina said, guide developing civilizations towards stable integration with the galactic community, but someone wants to change that mandate. A new hologram appeared, a map of temporal distortions throughout the ship. Red points pulsed like malignant stars, showing where the fabric of time had been stretched thin. These aren't random, Marcus noted, his engineering mind picking up the pattern. They're concentrated around key systems, life support, navigation, and what's this chamber here? The luminary engineer dimmed notably. The Concordat's temporal core. It maintains our position in the correct timeline. Correct timeline? Marcus asked. Reality is fluid, Vaxlina explained carefully. The concordate exists in what we determine to be the most stable temporal configuration. One where cooperation prevailed over conflict, but other possibilities exist, darker ones. The Syntharp's data eyes whirred. Probability analysis suggests the saboteurs aim to shift the Concordat into an alternate configuration, one where humanity never joins the galactic community, Marcus finished, understanding dawning, because we're the variable they didn't expect. Our primitive approach to technology, our comfort with imperfection. Your species represents change, Vaxlina confirmed, and change frightens those who have grown comfortable with power. A sudden alert blared through the chamber. The temporal core's hologram flashed urgent warnings. Multiple temporal incursions detected, the ship's AI announced. Chronometric shielding failing. Marcus studied the readouts, his mind racing. These patterns, they're similar to what we saw with the quantum shields. Could we apply the same solution? The luminary engineer pulsed skeptically. The temporal core requires perfect synchronization across all timelines. Any variance could be exactly what we need, Marcus interrupted. Look, whoever's attacking us expects you to follow conventional temporal mechanics. But what if we deliberately induced temporal chaos, created so many timeline variations that they can't isolate the one they want to change? Unprecedented, Vaxlina mused, and potentially catastrophic. Current strategy has 99.9% probability of failure, the Syntharps announced. Human proposal offers 42.3% chance of success. Better odds than we had with the shields, Marcus pointed out. But I'll need help. Knowledge of temporal mechanics that humanity won't develop for centuries. Vaxlina made a gesture, and the chamber's holographic displays reconfigured. Then let us teach you, Ambassador. Quickly. What followed was the most intense crash course in physics imaginable. The luminary explained temporal field theory, while the Syntharps provided practical applications. Vaxlina translated complex mathematical concepts into terms Marcus could grasp. As they worked, more temporal incursions appeared throughout the ship. Reality flickered as alternate timelines tried to assert themselves. Through some windows, Marcus caught glimpses of different versions of the celestial harmony, some battle-scarred, others transformed into weapons of war. The saboteurs are attempting to quantum lock an alternate timeline, the luminary engineer warned. One where the Concordat became an empire rather than an alliance. Marcus's fingers flew over the adapted controls, applying engineering principles to temporal mechanics. Then let's give them too many timelines to lock onto. He began introducing controlled variants into the temporal core's functions, creating minute variations that rippled across reality itself. The ship seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, probability clouds shifting and flowing like oil on water. Timeline convergence failing, the AI reported. Dimensional stability at 15% and falling. Good, Marcus said, surprising everyone. That means it's working. Push more power to the temporal core. But the timelines, the luminary engineer began. Will snap back, Marcus assured them. Like a rubber band, basic physics, the more you stretch a system, the stronger its tendency to return to its natural state. We're not fighting the timeline shifts, we're using them. The ship shuddered as reality itself groaned under the strain. Through the windows, Marcus could see multiple versions of space itself overlapping, some filled with peaceful trading vessels, others with warships, still others with things he had no context to understand. Temporal core overload imminent, the AA warned. Now, Marcus commanded, cut power to all temporal systems. For one eternal moment, the celestial harmony existed everywhere and everywhere at once. Marcus felt himself experiencing multiple timelines simultaneously, versions where he'd never left Earth, where he'd become a different kind of diplomat, where humanity had taken darker paths. Then, with a sound like the universe itself taking a breath, reality snapped back into place. The correct place. Temporal stability restored, the AI announced. All systems returning to normal parameters. How? Vaxelena began, then corrected herself. Of course, by pushing temporal variance to its extreme, then removing all controls simultaneously. We let reality's own tendency towards stability do the work for us, Marcus finished. Sometimes the best engineering solution is to stop fighting natural processes and start working with them. The Syntharch's calculations confirmed what they already knew. The saboteurs' attempts to lock in an alternate timeline had failed. The Concordat's temporal core had not only survived, but was now operating more efficiently than ever, protected by its new controlled chaos protocols. But as the immediate crisis passed, Marcus noticed something in the temporal readouts that made his blood run cold. A shadow of something vast and patient, watching from outside normal space-time. First coordinator, he said quietly, I don't think our interdimensional friends from earlier were working alone. These readings suggest something bigger. Something that's been planning this for a very, very long time. Vaxelena studied the data, her luminescent eyes widening. The primordials, she whispered. They were supposed to be just legends. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They had won this battle, but the war for reality itself was just beginning. The final test. The Celestial Harmony's command center had become a nexus of frantic activity. Representatives from every species aboard worked together, analyzing data from multiple dimensions and timelines. At the center of it all, Marcus studied a holographic representation of what the Concordat called deep time, the space between moments where the primordials dwelled. They're not just interdimensional entities, he said, understanding finally clicking into place. They're what was here before time, before space, before reality as we know it. The ones who lost everything when our universe formed, Vaxelena confirmed, and they want it back. The Syntharchs displayed historical data streams showing fragments of ancient records. The primordials have attempted reality restructuring multiple times throughout history. The Sundering Wars were merely their most recent failure. But this time is different, the luminary engineer pulsed urgently. They've learned from their mistakes, used our own temporal technology against us. The shield attack, the timeline incursions, they were just tests. Marcus watched as the holographic display showed reality itself beginning to thin around the ship. They're not trying to break in anymore. They're trying to break down the barriers between what is and what was. Turn everything back to before. Correct. A new voice echoed through the chamber, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Reality rippled as a figure stepped through what appeared to be a crack in space itself. The being appeared humanoid, but wrong in subtle ways that hurt to look at directly. Its smile contained too many angles. Its movements suggested joints that shouldn't exist. Ambassador Chen, it said, its voice resonating with impossible harmonics. The variable we didn't account for. The representation of beautiful chaos in a universe too ordered for its own good. Primordial infiltrator. Vaxelena moved to sound an alarm, but the being waved a hand that turned the air to crystal. Please, it said, let's be civilized. We've gone to such trouble to arrange this meeting after all, ensuring you boarded the wrong ship, manipulating events to place you at the center of this crisis. Marcus felt his blood run cold. You planned this? All of it? Of course. The being's smile widened impossibly. We needed someone who could think differently. Someone who could show the concordat the fatal flaw in their perfect order. And you performed beautifully. The chamber's displays began showing massive temporal distortions throughout the galaxy. Reality itself was beginning to unravel on a cosmic scale. Your solution to the shield crisis, the being continued, introducing chaos into order. It created exactly the kind of weakness we needed. A crack in the foundation of reality itself. No, Marcus protested. The controlled chaos protocols strengthen the shields. They make them flexible, the primordial corrected, adaptable, but also vulnerable in ways you couldn't understand, ways we've been exploiting since you implemented them. And now, the beam gestured, and the holographic displays showed thousands of points where reality was wearing thin. The celestial harmony sensors detected similar entities emerging across the galaxy wherever the concordat's influence had spread. The universe is returning to its natural state, the primordial announced. The void, the chaos, the endless possibility that existed before your ordered reality imposed its limitations. Marcus looked at his allies, Vaxlina frozen in crystallized air, the luminary dimmed to almost nothing, the syntharps struggling to process the impossible data. Everything they built, every civilization they guided, was about to be undone. But something about the primordial's words nagged at him. Chaos, order, limitations. You're wrong, Marcus said suddenly, understanding blooming. About everything. The primordial's impossible smile faltered slightly. Oh. This isn't about order versus chaos, Marcus continued, moving to the temporal cause controls. It's about the balance between them. The universe isn't ordered. It's a dynamic system of controlled chaos, just like the shield modifications. He began typing rapidly, implementing changes to the temporal cause systems. You didn't account for us because you don't understand what humanity really represents. We're not agents of chaos or order. We're adapters, integrators. We take opposing forces and find ways to make them work together. The primordial's form flickered. What are you doing? Showing you what real chaos looks like, Marcus answered, activating his modified protocols. You want to remove the limitations of reality? Let's see how you handle having no limitations at all. The temporal core pulsed with energy as Marcus pushed it beyond its safety protocols. Reality began to fluctuate wildly, not just between ordered and chaotic states, but through infinite possibilities simultaneously. Stop, the primordial commanded, its form beginning to distort. The fabric of existence cannot handle. Exactly, Marcus said grimly. Neither order nor chaos can exist without the other. Push too far in either direction, and everything breaks down, even for you. The being's form started to dissolve as reality itself rebelled against the extremes being forced upon it. You'll destroy everything. No, Marcus corrected, watching the readings carefully. I'm letting the universe do what it does naturally, find balance. With a sound like every symphony ever written playing at once, reality snapped back. The crystallized air shattered, freeing Vaxlina. The luminary blazed back to full brightness. The syntharps systems rebooted. The primordial was gone, its connection to their reality severed by the very extremes it had sought to create. Ambassador, Vaxlina said shakily, what did you do? Applied some basic Earth physics, Marcus explained. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Push reality too far toward pure order or pure chaos. And it naturally seeks equilibrium, the luminary engineer pulsed in understanding. The primordials attempt to impose their version of reality. Created the perfect conditions for reality to reject them entirely, Marcus finished. They didn't understand that the universe isn't about order or chaos, it's about balance. The same balance the concordat tries to maintain between species. The syntharps data confirmed it. Across the galaxy, the tiers in reality were sealing themselves. The primordial's incursion had been stopped, not by force or technological superiority, but by the fundamental laws of existence itself. As cleanup crews began assessing the damage, Vaxlena approached Marcus. "It seems we owe humanity more than we realized. Your species' unique perspective, it may have saved much more than just our ship." Marcus looked out at the stars, thinking about the accident that had brought him here and the chain of events it had set in motion. Maybe that's why the primordials targeted Earth. They saw what you saw, a species that could bridge the gap between order and chaos. Indeed, Vaxlena agreed, which makes me think, perhaps your accidental appointment as ambassador wasn't so accidental after all. The implications of that statement hung in the air as the celestial harmony continued its journey through space, its shields humming with the perfect balance of order and chaos that just might represent the future of galactic civilization. A bridge between stars. The celestial harmony's observation deck offered a spectacular view of Earth as the ship prepared for its final approach. After 3 months of crisis, revelation, and transformation, Marcus Chen was finally coming home, but not in the way he'd expected. The Concordat Assembly's decision was unanimous, Vaxlena said, her pearlescent skin glowing with what Marcus had learned to recognize as pride. Earth is to be granted full membership status with accelerated technological integration protocols. "And they want me to stay on as permanent ambassador," Marcus added, still processing the implications. "Are you sure about this? I mean, I'm still just an engineer who got on the wrong ship." The Luminary representative pulsed with amusement nearby. "Perhaps it was the right ship after all. Your engineering perspective proved invaluable in ways we never anticipated." The observation deck's displays showed the changes being implemented throughout the galaxy. New shield designs based on Marcus's Chaos protocols were being installed on everything from starships to planetary defense systems. The Concordat's temporal core had been redesigned around principles of dynamic equilibrium rather than rigid stability. "The primordials incursion taught us an important lesson," a Syntharch delegate observed, their data eyes displaying complex probability streams. "Perfect order creates perfect vulnerabilities. Evolution requires controlled instability." Something humanity understood instinctively, Vaxlena added. "Your species' greatest strength isn't your technology or your resilience, it's your ability to adapt, to find working solutions in imperfect conditions." Marcus watched as shuttles began departing the Harmony, carrying representatives to begin Earth's integration process. "And you're sure humanity is ready for this? We're still dealing with our own divisions, our own conflicts." "Precisely why you're ready," the Luminary pulsed. "You understand the importance of balance because you're still struggling to achieve it. Your perspectives aren't locked into rigid patterns like some older species. The Concordat needs humanity's chaos as much as humanity needs our order," Vaxlena explained. "Together, we create something stronger than either could achieve alone." A notification chimed softly. The first diplomatic teams had landed on Earth, beginning careful contact with selected governments. Marcus could only imagine the reactions as humanity realized it wasn't alone in the universe. "There will be resistance," the Syntharch warned, "both from Earth and from conservative elements within the Concordat. Change is never easy." "But necessary," Marcus replied, thinking of everything they'd learned. "The primordials showed us what happens when you resist change too strongly. The universe itself rebels." He turned to face his alien colleagues, friends now, after everything they'd been through. "So what's our first priority?" Vaxlena gestured, and a holographic display appeared showing the galaxy's temporal structure. The primordials may be gone, but they revealed weaknesses in reality itself. Other threats may emerge. We need new protocols, new ways of thinking that combine multiple perspectives. "A bridge," Marcus said, understanding, "not just between species, but between different ways of seeing the universe. Order and chaos, science and intuition, past and future." "Precisely why you're the ideal choice for permanent ambassador," the Luminary pulsed. You've already proven your ability to bridge seemingly incompatible systems. Marcus looked down at Earth, his home world now seeming simultaneously smaller and more significant than ever before. Somewhere down there was his old apartment, his resigned engineering job, the life he'd been trying to escape when he boarded the wrong ship. Or maybe, as Vaxlena had suggested, the right ship. The integration process will take time, the Syntharch noted. Probability matrices suggest decades of careful cultural exchange before full technological sharing can begin. Good, Marcus said firmly. Some things shouldn't be rushed. Balance isn't about finding the perfect solution, it's about constant adjustment, continuous adaptation. A new alert sounded. More temporal distortions had been detected in distant sectors of space. Not the primordials this time, but new challenges that would require new solutions. Shall we begin, Ambassador Chen? Vaxlena asked formally. Marcus straightened his jacket, still the same worn leather one he'd boarded with, now something of a symbol among the Concordat representatives. Yes, First Coordinator. Let's help humanity take its first steps into a much larger universe. As the Celestial Harmony prepared for its next mission, Marcus reflected on the strange journey that had brought him here. A budget vacation turned into humanity's first step into galactic society. An engineering problem that had saved reality itself. A mistake that had turned out to be exactly what everyone needed. The stars stretched out before them, filled with new possibilities, new challenges, and new opportunities for finding balance in an infinite cosmos. And somewhere out there, in the spaces between moments, Marcus could have sworn he felt the universe itself adjusting, adapting, finding its own equilibrium between order and chaos. The next chapter in humanity's story was just beginning, and thanks to one accidental ambassador's unique perspective, it would be written not in the language of conquest or submission, but in the universal principles of adaptation, integration, and the endless dance between order and chaos that made reality itself possible. End.